Welcome back. This is Stacy Dunn at Dundee Farms, and today we're going to talk about tortoises and turtles. What makes them different? What makes them unique? This little lady right here is our redfoot tortoise. Now they get that name from the beautiful coloring of the scales on their legs. Their shell is made up of the same stuff that your hair and fingernails are made of, called keratin, and it's very strong. Basically, for a tortoise, its only form of keeping itself safe from predators is going to be this shell. So they actually have the ability, so long as they're not obese and overfed, to pull their head in and pull their front feet right over their face to actually protect their eyes. Their eyes are super important for them because these guys don't really hear very well, but they are very vivid with color. They can actually see, just like some other reptiles, they can see the different waves of UVA and UVB light. Now, these guys do not have teeth. So what they have instead is they have a beak. So much like our incisors cuts through food, they basically just cut the food and they swallow it. They don't really chew at all. Hibiscus flowers are one of their favorite treats. They enjoy them a lot. And they're very drawn to color, so items that are red, items that are yellow, stuff like that, green, that's how they're gonna find their food. Matter of fact, yellow items, such as squashes and like this has orange in it, all have carotids, so it's super important for their eyesight as well. So a tortoise, you can kind of tell their age, believe it or not, by these cool geometric shapes on their shell right there. These are all called scutes. Now a tortoise has 38 of those scutes. You're not counting just the ones right here on the top, but also the ones that you'll see on the sides here. And as they grow, their shell grows with them. So they'll get basically rings around throughout the year. So if you count all the rings on here, you'll be able to, and divide it by 2, that kind of gives you an approximate age of a tortoise to give you an idea. Now she's not done growing. Believe it or not, tortoises actually keep growing their whole life. These guys will age out a human. They get over 150 years or more. I think the longest recorded one right now is a Galapagos tortoise, and he is 165 years old. So they have 38 on the top, and then they actually have on the bottom here, on the bottom of the plastron of the shell, they have anywhere between 12 to 14. So I'm gonna put her back there over with her melon. Now what's really cool is we actually had one of our tortoise eggs hatch out. I brought one of the babies to kind of show you how big they are. This guy just hatched out yesterday, and he's very tiny, just a little bit bigger than the size of a quarter. Now he's got all of his scutes right there, and as he grows, just like this big girl right here, he'll get rings around them as well. So I wanted to show you some other tortoises we have on the farm. What's nice about redfoots is they are not a territorial species like other tortoises. Males can get very territorial. They don't like other males in their area. And some tortoises will actually walk several miles, and that'll be their territory. So the next tortoise I brought to show you out is the 3rd largest tortoise in the world. These guys are pretty popular in the pet industry, but when you're getting an animal, always do your research. These guys get massive, okay? Now, something this hard, walking around, these guys can actually bulldoze right through a fence, believe it or not. Because at full size, they get about 34 to, I guess it would be about 34 inches, 34 to 38 inches, and they get over 150 pounds, to give you an idea. These are called an African sulcata or spur thigh tortoise because they've got these little spurs right here on the back side of their body. Now tortoises are not great swimmers. Matter of fact, they don't have any webbing between their digits, so they're not able to be as agile as, say, a turtle in the water. So these guys, if you were to kind of put them out here towards the edge, they have very good depth perception. Did you see them just back up? Because they realize that if their foot doesn't hit a solid surface, who knows what danger lies down there. So these guys have very good depth perception. And these guys on the front of all of their little areas have these scales that actually are about as hard as rocks, and those are going to protect their eyes as well. He can pull his whole head in like that, and it can protect his eyes from danger. So tortoises' skeletons are really unique. They have this hard shell, and on the inside attached to that, you're going to find their whole spinal cord as well as their ribs and everything in there. So they really can't live without their shell. If you've ever found a turtle shell without a turtle in it, chances are a predator already got to it. So this little guy, the little hatchling that just hatched out, they get out of an egg the same way a bird does. They actually have an egg tooth, a little spike right on the tip of their beak. And so what will happen is as they move their head like this, it'll actually tear open the egg so they can crawl out on their own. So redfoot tortoises are endemic to South America. They're found all over, and depending on the region they're found will depend on their coloring. These little guys right here, the African sulcata tortoise, they are found in Africa. So tortoises are pretty cool. They're one of my favorite animals. I wanted to show you some different types of turtles that we also have here on the farm. So these guys are really unique turtles. So there are land-dwelling turtles and aquatic turtles. These are semi-aquatic, so they can swim. Although they can swim, they spend most of their time on the ground. These guys do have webbing between their toes, and they have a really cool hinge right on their belly right here. They're called a box turtle because they can roll their whole body up into a box if they feel threatened or scared. They are sexually dimorphic. If you look at these two, this is the male right here, and this is the female. But these guys actually, even though they're male and female, they're shaped a little bit different. Right there on the bottom of the plastron, they've got that little concave right there. Females are generally just completely flat. And that is because when they mate, the shell is rounded. Otherwise, they would just fall right off. So these guys are omnivorous, which means they like to eat a lot of vegetation, fruit, and bugs. They have a beak just like the turtles do, and they use that beak to catch different types of prey items and eat them. Box turtles like a lot more fruit than green vegetation, like the tortoises that we had right there. And these guys can live an average of about 40 years or so. Now these box turtles are found in the States here. We have another box turtle that's actually found in Southeast Asia. These guys, this rounded one right here is one that's found in the Texas region, and this oblong one is one that you'd find actually here in Florida where we are at. So I want to get my Asian box turtle out here. She's really, really cool. Box turtles don't get much bigger than about 5 to 6 inches. So this one right here is almost full size. She's got about another inch to go. She's hiding for you so you can see how they can actually pull their body all the way in. Now see how she's got that hinge right there? It's pulled all the way in like that. Once she feels comfortable, she'll relax and she'll actually bring her body out of that area. So these guys are much more agile swimmers. They spend most of their time, probably about 50% of their time in the water. They'll eat in the water or on land, whereas those other turtles we have just predominantly eat when they're on land. So I've got another special one to show you guys. Now this is going to be a semi-aquatic as well. These guys spend a lot of time in the water. These are the North American wood turtles. They are a really unique turtle. They have a lot of cool coloring. If you look at their belly, they're bright yellow there, and then in the little leg sockets they have that orange skin right there. Now these guys, you see they're flat shell like that, so they like to hang out in little rocky areas, so they'll kind of climb along the different parts of creeks and riverbeds and stuff like that. And because they're from North America, it actually snows where they're at. So during the winter season, these guys will actually burrow down into the soil a couple feet and they'll hibernate. So you'll find them out in the summertime and the springtime, but during the cold months, they actually hunker down. So I've got one more turtle I want to show you guys. So all the turtles I have here all have darker pigment on them, okay? They are your normal average one that you'd find if you were out in the field. My next turtle I have has no pigment, which means it's an albino. So I'm going to bring them out and show them to you. Now these are albino red-eared sliders. You can tell they're albino because they have no dark pigment. If you were to see a normal red-eared slider, they'd actually have a dark green colored shell. A lot of times if they're in a pond, they're actually even going to have algae covering that shell. They have no way to really clean it off their back. And these guys, if you notice, have those pink eyes, which tells you they're albino. So this is a female and this is a male. The male's so much smaller than the female, but he has these much longer nails right here. They use that in a courtship, which is really unique. So they basically will go up to a female, right to her face, and they kind of do this right in front of her face right there with those nails. So the females are a lot bigger, and the reason they're a lot bigger is because they need to have room to harbor all those eggs. Now here in Florida, we're pretty temperate, so these guys will lay several clutches throughout the summer season, and then they'll go off laying for the winter time. Oh, and she decided to make an appearance. I don't know if you guys see that. I'm gonna bring her right over here. Kind of scared her again. So these are also an Asian species, but because a lot of people have gotten them as small pets, then they get kind of big and turtles are kind of messy. You'll find a lot of red-eared sliders actually out in our native ponds out here. And the problem that happens with that is they kind of take over because they're a very aggressive turtle. They eat a lot of the food source like fish and worms and stuff. So they're pretty established here in Florida now, but they're originally over from Asia as well. Oh, we have an escapee. So the biggest difference between turtles and tortoises is you're going to find that most turtles live near or in water, whereas tortoises are going to be land dwelling. And that's really the biggest difference. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed. These are just few of the many species of turtles and tortoises that are out there. There's about 300 species of tortoise as well as over 300 species of aquatic turtles.